have a storyteller this week. She is another designer, but she is a founder of the business, The Balance Bound Planner. And her name, hold up, is Brooke Forry, and she works with Terry Baker, and they created this. They also own a design from Curious and Co-Creative. But anyway, so the Balance Bound Planner is like a new way of looking at organizing yourself. So she kind of tells a story about, jumping in and creating a product. It took her years and years and years. She had the idea and then she manifested it. But so it's very interesting because all of us do this. We have this idea and nothing kills me more than when someone takes too long to create it, but she finally did, and she is a hit. So
that's
this
awesome.
is a story from Brooke Forry.
My name is Brooke Forry. I am co-founder and creative director of Curious & Company, a boutique branding design firm, and creator of the Balance Bound Planner. My story today is the slow but very steady journey to creating an authentic product line. I was always obsessed with stationery and planners when I was younger. Before cell phones and to-do apps, I was always toting a paper planner with me, probably starting from middle school and into high school and college, writing out my tasks and schedule to get everything just out of my brain and onto paper. I don't think I really realized it at the time, but what writing it all down was really doing for me was helping to calm my overwhelm and what I now know was anxiety. I always knew I wanted a creative career. My mom was an elementary art teacher. My brother went to art school. So creativity was really just in my genes, and it was very encouraged in my home growing up. I went to the University of Delaware, where I majored in visual communications with a concentration in graphic design. And while the education really focused on things like branding design, advertising, photography design, I just always was still drawn to the stationery world, but it wasn't necessarily something that was valued a lot in my design program or talked about. But nonetheless, it was always there in the back of my mind. The design program I was part of was incredibly competitive, and while I did okay, I was never necessarily the strongest designer in the group. Looking back, I can see how much my anxiety hindered my ability to think creatively without worrying about how it would be critiqued or graded or what my classmates would think about it. But I made it through the program fairly successfully, and it gave me a certain amount of thick skin to handle critiques of my work and enter a tricky job market. It also really made me an amazing problem solver, not necessarily something that I had considered myself good at before, but our whole program was just about solving problems in creative ways. So when I graduated, I was incredibly driven to find a job in my field and just hit the ground running, working at an organization in Philadelphia shortly after graduation. I had a series of interesting jobs over the years, all with a slightly different focus. So there was the in-house graphic design job for an arts organization in Philly. There was creating home decor products for mass production. That job also led me to meet my husband, so it worked out. I was an in-house designer at a university, and then finally I was a designer at a boutique invitation studio before starting my own business. And every job was a little different, but I just took something so valuable away from each position, even if it didn't necessarily feel like the place I was supposed to be at that time or what I wanted to be doing forever. For instance, the job at the university, I was there for 4 years. And while it got a little redundant because we were constantly just designing things for the same client, I can never see the Pantone color 201 ever again without thinking of that job and their color that they always used. It was so valuable in certain ways because we had our own in-house press facility, which is not something that a lot of other designers really get to see that side of their work. So I got an amazing hands-on experience seeing how my designs went from on screen to on paper and all of the invisible challenges and problems that I never knew existed before with creating jobs for print. creating throughout all of the different jobs, I still just always had this desire and feeling that I would work for myself one day and get back to those stationery loving roots. I still, collected stationery for myself and wrote letters to people and still always had a planner by my side. So 11 years ago, after the job at the Invitation Studio, my business partners and I joined forces and we started Curious and Company as a boutique branding design firm. And honestly, at the beginning, we took on anything that came our way, but over time, we really honed in on the two main focuses. So it was branding design for small businesses and custom wedding invitation work, which is pretty different than the branding design work, but it was something that we had experience in from our past at the Invitation Studio, and just, it was something that we enjoyed. We started a line of letterpress wedding invitations that we would customize for people. But over the first few years of doing that, the wedding invitation work lost a little bit of its spark. The wedding and e-commerce worlds were changing a lot. I mean, we're talking about 11 years ago when online shopping wasn't as prevalent. You couldn't necessarily just hop onto an invitation website and customize your invitation. So things were changing a lot, and we eventually decided to discontinue the wedding line and focus solely on branding. So we did that for a few more years, but in the back of my mind, I still always just had that inkling that I wanted to be doing some sort of stationery. We tried out a product line at one point. We had some note cards and calendars and just general stationery products. But again, it just didn't have that spark that we wanted it to have. And it kind of fizzled out, and the branding work again took priority. But eventually, I just still had that in the back of my mind that I loved stationery. I loved planners. What could I do to have a planner line? What could we do to create this new product? Of course, when it really came to me, I wasn't actually looking for the idea. Over the years, while running the business, I had 2 children, and I continued, struggling with some anxiety. I struggled a lot with balancing work and life and family and trying to have a social life and all of the things that, come with both owning a business and having kids. And my anxiety was definitely a common theme that I just really felt burnout and depleted. As the stationery products were in the back of my mind, I guess one day subconsciously I was driving home from a networking event, and I just thought to myself, oh, I wish there was a planner that really just let me kind of divide my life into different sections based on the different roles that I play. And I thought, oh, wait, that's it. That's something that we can create. So I I thought about it a little bit on my own. I came to my business partners and just kind of said, what do you think about this idea? It was still pretty rough at the time, but ultimately it came down to this planner that would have each day divided into 4 sections: work, self, others, and home. And to me, visually, that helped me just kind of break down all of the different tasks, kind of sort out all of that overwhelm that I had going on in my brain, and, let things kind of fall into place in my life. My partners were intrigued. And so we just kind of slowly began this journey to prototyping, using it on our own, and just making some very small tweaks constantly to create the product that it became. So this was in early 2018. So we had started the business in 2011. I had 2 kids. This idea finally came about in 2018 when we started with these prototypes. So it wasn't until 2019 that we actually decided to go for it and turn this into a real product for real customers. We started out on Kickstarter, and while that was an amazing experience, and we got a lot of great attention for it, we had unfortunately just set our goal too high. The financial end of the Kickstarter and just getting a new product off the ground was so overwhelming, and we made some mistakes. But being that resilient person that I was from the design program that I was in, I was never going to let a problem hold me back. from finding a solution. So we decided to move forward with creating the product, even though the Kickstarter didn't necessarily work out. And the 2020 line of the Balance Bound Planner was our first collection. As we all know, 2020 also was quite a mess for pretty much the whole world. And while we had sold a bunch of planners at the end of 2019 into 2020, once the pandemic hit and we still had some inventory left over, and we were just left feeling like, what is going on in the world? What are we doing? Are we bringing something of value at this time? We decided to kind of use that leftover inventory that we still had, and we shifted to helping healthcare workers who needed this product to help them divide and conquer all of the things that they now had to do, and to make time for self-care and manage the stress that we were all dealing with at that time. So we kind of, shifted course. We offered free planners to any healthcare worker that could use them. We cleaned out our inventory. We helped healthcare workers in the process and other essential workers. And that newfound time at home with our families also just kind of brought a new perspective to the product. We had always been a product to help you divide and conquer all of your tasks based on the different roles that you play. But we really started emphasizing that being able to prioritize self-care was so important. The term self-care certainly gets thrown around a lot these days, and it doesn't necessarily, always sound authentic coming from other businesses, but we do just have such a passion for helping people prioritize their self-care, because for me personally, it was something that brought me back to myself after having kids, after running a business, after being completely burnt out and just caught up in my own anxiety and my own head for so long. This was a product that we created for ourselves, that we brought to other people, that really just brought self-care to the forefront. So the 2000 line, it kind of turned into something different. 2021 was on the horizon, and we were still in a pandemic, but we still were able to, bring a new collection to life last year, and we hit the ground running. And now we have our 2022 planner collection ready to go. We are in the pre-order stage, and we're so excited to have created a product that resonated with people, particularly during a time that has just been so overwhelming for so many people. And we hope that this little planner and this little stationery product can bring some solace and some calm to people's lives.
Okay, Happies, we are out. Remember to follow @HappyBox and @WaxCabin on Instagram. Watch our stories for podcasts and product updates. If you need business or life advice, email us at thetotallyhappypodcast@gmail.com. That is thetotallyhappypodcast@gmail.com, or call the THP line and leave a voicemail at 973-520-7533. Like and subscribe to our pod, and for fuck's sake, get to work.